Hello, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome all pupils back to full-time education at St Columba's School, and for some, their very first term in the senior school. Returning to school after 5 months will no doubt be accompanied by some anxiety for pupils, for parents as well, and for staff. The aim of this presentation is to inform pupils and parents about the measures in place to try to make sure that our school is as safe as it possibly can be for everyone at this time. And I hope that by sending it out to homes so that you can watch it and listen in advance of the start of term will help to ease some of the anxiety. Our main priorities in the early weeks of the return to school will be ensuring safety and the welfare and well-being of the whole community. We cannot deny that COVID-19 has brought different challenges for all of us, and that it will impact on each of us in a different way. Our staff are trained to support pupils and to identify those who need additional support, whether that is for their academic studies or their pastoral care. So the first point that I'm going to talk about as we prepare for the return to school is social distancing. We've all now become used to keeping a safe distance between ourselves and other adults and children when we are going about our day-to-day business and shopping, for example. The scientific advice that schools have been given is that physical distancing between young people in secondary schools is not required, but should be encouraged where possible, especially between older pupils. We are asked to encourage pupils to maintain a distance between each other where possible, and particularly indoors, and to avoid touching, hugging, or crowding together. Staff must maintain a 2-metre distance between themselves and pupils, and also between themselves and other adults. And where this isn't possible for longer than 15 minutes, staff are asked to wear visors or face coverings. In another mitigating measure, pupils in all classrooms will be seated side by side and not facing each other. So one of the mitigating measures recommended by the government is to reduce the amount of movement around the school and mixing of class groups. With this in mind, pupils in Transitus, Senior 1 and Senior 2 have been allocated to a single classroom for most of their lessons. They will move classes in order to attend specialist teaching in subjects such as music, science, art and technology. Just to give a bit more detail here, the pupils are in 3 classes per year group, 3 classes of around 20 pupils, and most of their lessons will be in those classes. And parents will receive an email later this week from Mr. McLaughlin giving details of those classes and the class teachers and where pupils should go on the first day. Mixing of classes from Senior 3 and upwards is something that can't be avoided because of subject choices. So pupils will have to go to lessons with different people from their year groups. However, measures are in place to ensure that year groups apart from S5 and S6 do not mix during the school day. So we have allocated outdoor spaces to each year group where they can go at short break and long break, and details of those are included later. We will not be able to hold assemblies because we're not allowed to have year groups mixing. However, Monday assemblies will continue on Teams as they did during lockdown, and they'll be led by S6 as usual. As explained in June, in order to facilitate regular laundering and remove the need for changing rooms to be available, pupils are asked to attend school wearing a white polo shirt, blue Canterbury-style joggers, and their PE fleece or waterproof, and trainers should be worn. On PE days, they may wish to wear their shorts underneath their Canterburys so that they can change out of them easily. The government guidelines state that face coverings are not mandatory for most children unless they have been clinically advised to wear a covering, and this also applies to staff. PPE is not normally required for staff except where they come into contact with blood and bodily fluids, and our school nurse has been training the staff on the use of PPE. Anyone who wishes to wear a face covering should wear a face covering. I think this is something that we'll be keeping under review, and the guidance will be keeping under review as we go forward. Pupils should bring their own pencil case and stationery to school with them, including a protractor and a calculator, because we're not going to be encouraging sharing. Pupils should also bring a packed lunch and a full water bottle, preferably a reusable, refillable bottle, in the interest of the environment. And we have been advised that our own water fountains cannot be used. We recommend that pupils bring their own alcohol-based hand sanitizer to school and use it regularly throughout the day. There are hand sanitizing units in all classrooms and on all corridors, but a personal supply that's readily available before and after touching any surface is recommended. We'd also ask that pupils bring their own tissues to school. Please be aware that in order to avoid crowding in small areas, there are no cloakroom facilities being provided at the moment. However, a small bag for PE can be stored in the outdoor bag boxes, and I'll talk more about PE later on. I'm now going to take you through a typical school day, and we're going to start by thinking about transport arrangements. School buses can now operate as normal, that is with no social distancing required, and face coverings are not mandatory. However, you may wish to encourage your child to wear a face covering on the school buses. Pupils who travel on school buses are asked to wash or sanitize their hands before entering the bus and on arrival at their destination. They're asked to sit on the same seats for each journey and to leave the seats immediately behind the driver free. There must be no eating or drinking on the buses. And for the return journey, we've created separate waiting areas for each bus so that pupils can be kept apart whilst waiting. Pupils who live locally are encouraged to walk or cycle to school as much as possible to avoid congestion around our buildings. We've had to ask staff not to park in the school grounds in order to create more social spaces for pupils. This means that there will be more staff parking around the school. We therefore respectfully request that parents who drop their children off at school do not park at the school gates, and we strongly encourage you to drop off and collect your children in a more central location in the village. Please be aware that car sharing with children from different households is discouraged, and we also ask that parents don't gather at the school gates because this can be difficult with social distancing. We've also been advised that parents should not come to school at all, into the school buildings that is, unless it's absolutely necessary and for a previously arranged meeting. So we've made some minor changes to the school day, which are designed to support social distancing. There is no staggered start to the school day. However, we are easing pupils in gently to the start of lessons. We'd like pupils to aim to arrive at school between 8:40 and 8:45 so that lessons can begin at 8:50. They should go straight to their first period lesson and wait in the classroom. On the first day of term, they will go to their transitors base class or their form class, and you'll be notified, as I already said, of this in advance. They should not enter any other building. So transitors will go straight into the Girdwood building, and then classes will go to the building in which their form class is located. Hand sanitizing units are available outside each entrance, and they should be used before touching the keypad. There is an additional hand sanitizing unit inside the door, which should also be used after entering the building. Pupils who arrive early can wait in their allocated area of the school grounds if it's fine weather, or go to the assembly hall in inclement weather. To facilitate social distancing, we have introduced a one-way system around the school with dedicated pupil entrances. So the entrance for pupils to the main building is from Lisle Road only. The entrance for the Girdwood building is from the upper playground, and as I've already said, hand sanitising is available at all the entrance doors. And diagrams for the one-way system around the school are on the following slides. So you will see that from the Cargill Centre and the Science Block and the Girdwood building, pupils are being asked to walk out onto the pavement on Greif Road and then walk along Greif Road and up Lisle Road to come into the senior school. So here you can see that the entry to the main building is through Lisle Road. Pupils wanting to go to humanities and maths classrooms will be going up the main staircase, along the corridor, and then exiting via the back stairs and out through the doors, the double doors, onto the playground. This slide simply shows the one-way system on the top corridor of the main building. This slide shows the one-way system for the Girdwood building, with pupils entering via the main entrance, but exiting via the door beside the transitors' classrooms. When leaving science, pupils are asked to turn to the left. And this slide shows the one-way system from the Cargill building to access all other buildings, with pupils using the playground to access the Girdwood building or science, or going all the way around the building to the main road to get onto the footpath to the main entrance. And so the grounds areas, as previously mentioned, the grounds have been divided into different year groups. So transitors will have the use of the lovely lawn beside the transitors' classrooms. S1 will have the upper playground, which is beside the Girdwood building. S2, the lower playground beside the Cargill Centre. S3, the front of the Girdwood building. S4, the courtyard outside the drama studio. And S5 will have the front of the main building. All of this information regarding the different buildings might seem a little overwhelming if your child is a new pupil to the school, and particularly if they're in transitors. Transitors classes will be escorted by their teacher for the first week or so until they have got used to the layout of the classrooms, and new pupils will have buddies allocated to them to help them to get around the buildings safely. For the next session, we're going to be having a much more flexible approach to Senior 6. So pupils who live in the village are encouraged to go home when they're not in lessons or doing prefects duties or involved in clubs and sports. As always, Senior 6 can sign out of school to go to the village during the school day, and the common room is available with restricted access. In terms of duties, we are asking S6 to be on duty in between lessons to help us with that changeover. So we'll be asking them to manage the doors and to keep the doors open between periods so that we are reducing the amount of touching, particularly on the keypads and the door handles. They will also be doing corridor duties at lunchtime. There'll be more details to follow in the S6 handbook and at the S6 parents presentation next week. For many of our subjects, there is specific guidance available for how that subject can be taught and for what can be taught at the moment in school. So in PE, the advice is that lessons should take place outdoors, and this will be the case as far as we are able to. Lessons will be outdoors. We are hoping for more sunshine when we go back to school. The PE department is also discussing alternative wet weather activities which are permitted within the guidelines. In music, because of the aerosols emitted, singing, wind and brass playing is not allowed until safe guidelines are available. This also impacts on drama, so any drama activities will be quieter than usual. Specific guidelines have been produced so that practical work such as science experiments and work in design and technology can be carried out safely. Our teachers will obviously be working to follow these guidelines. But each of these subjects requires pupils to use equipment provided by the school and which is shared. So, for example, tools in design and manufacture and instruments in music, beakers, etc. in science. Pupils will be asked to clean each of these items carefully before and after use, and that also applies to laptops as well, and antiviral wipes will be provided. I wrote to you in June to explain that Inspire Catering will not be providing a lunch service at least until the October break. So pupils will be eating their packed lunches in their Period 3 classrooms, except for science, art and tech, which cannot be used for health and safety reasons. So those classes will be displaced to the senior school hall in year groups where they will have their lunch. Please could I ask you to be aware that the school is a nut-free zone, so please do not send any nut products into school in packed lunches. We have a number of pupils with severe nut allergies. If there are any other allergies that we need to alert individual year groups to, we will do so. Once the lunches have been eaten, we are hoping to be able to offer some clubs during lunch break, especially sports events at the AstroTurf for Senior 1 to Senior 4. Transitors will not be a part of this, and that's because they have a lovely big space for activities just outside the Girdwood building, and we feel that under the circumstances and not being able to offer quite as many clubs as we normally would at lunchtime, that we need to give priority to S1 to S4 who have less space available to them within the school grounds. S5 will have limited access to the common room. We will be capping the number of people who can go into the common room at any one time at 20, and we'll also be making some other areas available to S5 at lunchtime. We will continue to offer after-school supervised study. This will run up until 5:30 p.m. and it will be moved to room E12, which is 2 classrooms which can be opened up to allow distancing, and pupils will be asked to sit in their year groups within these 2 rooms. Supervised study is supervised by a member of the management team each evening. So we're hoping to be able to return to a full extracurricular programme as soon as possible. The PE department plans to offer after-school training sessions for hockey and rugby, and we're hopeful that competitive hockey will restart before the October break. The Duke of Edinburgh's awards are continuing with adjustments in place to ensure that levels can be completed, and clubs such as drama will restart at the beginning of term and will be socially distanced between year groups. Unfortunately, there will be no choirs or orchestras until the government guidelines allow those to continue, but we will be able to offer pipe band rehearsals in a fairly limited format, but they will be able to run. Cleaning arrangements. We have been working with our cleaning contractor to ensure that there is additional cleaning throughout the day instead of a single cleaner at the end of the day. Our housekeeper will also be on site cleaning door handles, keypads, banisters and bathrooms throughout the day. Pupils and staff will be expected to clean their workstation and any equipment that they touch, including laptops, and wipes are provided in each classroom for this purpose. Just last week, a pupil came into school to film how to clean a desk and how to clean a laptop, and we'll be sharing that recording with other pupils at the beginning of term. Hygiene is obviously a #1 priority for everyone in the school, so that we can all be safe as we go back to work. Classrooms must be well ventilated, and staff will be asked to keep windows open and, where they can, doors open, so that we can allow air to circulate around the buildings. To reduce congestion in bathrooms, pupils will be allowed to leave lessons to go to the bathroom when necessary, and we will be constantly reminding them of the importance of COVID-secure personal hygiene, particularly around hand washing, around avoiding touching the face, and coughing and sneezing into a tissue, and binning it using the catch it, bin it, kill it motto. Tissues and hand sanitizer are available in every classroom, and if anyone does sneeze, wipes are available so that surfaces can be wiped down immediately. We have carried out a full risk assessment over the last few weeks, and the risk assessment is going to be validated by our external health and safety advisors before the beginning of term. As soon as it has been validated, it will be shared with parents on Firefly. Specific risk assessments have also been put together for vulnerable groups, such as pupils with severe asthma. I hope this goes without saying, but please do not send your child to school if they feel unwell. Under normal circumstances, most of us, myself included, send our children to school with a sniffle or a sore throat. Please help us all by keeping your child at home if there is any sign of illness at all. We all need to be vigilant for the signs of COVID-19, and I'm sure I don't really need to repeat them, but please be on the lookout for a new or continuous cough, a fever or high temperature, a loss of or change in sense of smell or taste, and self-isolate if symptomatic. That means keeping your child at home. Please follow the guidance on NHS Inform and Test and Protect, and that includes access to testing. If your child or a member of your family has a positive test result, please inform the school immediately. The school is required to follow the NHS guidance, and we have been asked to inform Health Protection Scotland if we have 2 positive cases of COVID within a 14-day period. We have to inform them immediately and then follow the advice that they give us. If a pupil becomes ill with COVID symptoms during the school day, they will be isolated immediately and parents will be contacted. Our school nurse will manage that situation for us. After all of this procedural information, I'd like to return to the most important aspect of the return to school, and that is looking after your child. We will absolutely prioritise well-being in the first few weeks, and you may notice a reduction in homework during the settling in period. Further information about individual year groups will be shared at the virtual parents' evenings, which will take place during the first few weeks of term, and I'll write shortly to confirm the dates of those presentations. We teach our pupils that when faced with a challenge, they should plan, do and review. Now that we have planned, we will of course review our plans constantly once we see them in practice, and we may well have to make adjustments, either because we identify improvements or because government advice changes. We will communicate any changes with you as quickly as possible. The success of our virtual school gives us confidence that we will be well placed to continue teaching and learning in the event of a sudden closure using Teams. However, we really hope that this does not happen. Having watched this presentation, you may now have questions. Please forward any questions to my PA through secretary@stcolumbus.org, and I shall try to address any matters raised during the Parents' Information Evening presentations. I hope that you found this useful. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.